Netrunner players, boy, have we got a video for you. We have Jai visiting post Worlds. He's in London. He wants to play more games. So I thought the Tuesday meetup wasn't going to happen after Worlds, but we go ahead and do it anyway because Jai wants to play games. So we're going to be there. And what a game we have with an excellent, excellent opening hand, fast gameplay. You're going to love it. Enjoy. And here we start with our mulligan. We look at our first hand and it's not great. We've got an agenda in there. We've got some useful things, but it's the one agenda that we really don't want early. So we decide to mulligan and we decide, you know what, we're here to learn. So let's show our hand. Let's see what's going on. We've got 2 ice, not great. We've got our worst operation to have in our opening. And so it's definitely a mulligan. And boy, do we mulligan into something very, very fun indeed that throws our opponent off. We reshuffle, lots of shuffling. I maybe shuffled a little too long. But then we do eventually get to drawing this opening hand, which I believe was 2 humanoid, 2 red level clearance, and a spin doctor. So we're very happy because we can finally do the red level clearance humanoid opening, which I've wanted to try for a while. So we slap that down. We know exactly what we're doing. Here it comes. Gain R4, draw 3, install 2, really hoping we had a piece of ice, but we didn't find a single piece of ice. So instead we just slap down a new humanoid and a spin doctor, and then we play hedge fund from hand. And at this point, Jai is going, oh, an asset spam Leo. This is not something I was expecting. And we weren't expecting either, but it is what we have ended up with. So he slaps down double shore gamble into a Hannah, which is great in this matchup that looks like it might be asset spam, and then decides to use that Hannah to go take a little peek. Finds a spin doctor. We take the 2 cards. We're very happy to take the 2 cards because we're still looking for a piece of ice, and we decide to shuffle back a humanoid and a red level clearance because why not? We could do it all again. And then he runs the other card, finds the other humanoid, and trashes that. So our hopes of humanoid into humanoid to steamroll through the game have unfortunately been wiped out. But then we draw. We now have a piece of ice. We play a petty cash first just to keep our money afloat because that's the tough point for us is if we get too low on money, it can be really difficult and you will spend some turns just clicking for 3. We install an ice and we are ready and waiting to see what our opponent has. So they've obviously burnt through 3 cards on their first turn. So they're looking to redraw and make sure they've got some more stuff in hand. They come across a brown and think hard about the decision. They didn't run with Hannah because they didn't know what it would be and they didn't want to unnecessarily take a tag because that's pretty costly. And they think that this Hannah might be useful in the long run. So they hit into the brown. They think about it, spend some time working out, is it worth spending 3? And spends the 3 clicks, then trashes the humanoid. So unfortunately, we've seen 3 humanoids in the first 2 turns of the game, but only one of them ended up firing. We install in the remote, install another card, and then we use we use Mercia in order to install a piece of ice. Just to strengthen up our server there. Jai showing us that he has found all the dolls, but very religiously, as the deck list, I believe, mentions for this, is you always make sure the Matryoshka you install is from a Gachapon, and then you keep the ones in hand and use those on it. But I guess when you've got 4 in hand, it's difficult. You have to weigh up against Leo, because Leo... Originally, I was playing a list of Leo that had Hammer in it to deal with dolls, because it just always feels good to have a Hammer around for when dolls are coming about. But in fact, you can already deal very well with dolls. If they have to run for a server twice and it's got 3 pieces of ice, they only have 5 dolls they can host. So if they're breaking all of that ice with dolls, they're not getting in the second time. So there's lots of resilience you have. The fact that you can make them run through twice and dolls are once a turn already does a good job itself. We do manage to go ahead and score the Luminal. Of course, in this game where we're just high rolling from turn 1, we find a Luminal as our first agenda, slap that down, and we rush and score it. We knew we had a Mercia, so we could always block them out if we needed to. And we had the credits left to be able to just score the Luminal. It's important to basically do whatever you can to score that Luminal. It helps so much. And then our opponent runs R&D. We choose not to res, mostly because we can't afford it, because it's a Bran. And then we draw up again. So we drop down with a hedge fund. We install and then we advance once. I believe the second piece of ice on here, what was it? It's a drafter on there, and then we just put a boomy on the outside. The reason for putting both of these is, firstly, it could look like a boomy and a fly swatter perhaps, but we're pretty sure in their current state with no breakers on the table, despite the fact that Jai had a bunch in hand, we think, or pretty confident, that we can keep them out. And their credits aren't too heavy right now because their fermenter's still cooking up. So we take this opportunity to take this window and try and score a send a message. Obviously, we don't know that Jai has, is that $4 in hand waiting to go, and a pinhole ready too. So got a lot of the tools he needs, just needs a little bit more money coming in to be able to actually get through this server when it comes time to. But there we see Keiko giving itself a credit back. And then we bin a Matryoshka. Now, I am a player that was just looking down, just looking at my cards, and was rushing to score out this send a message to res the Bran on R&D. And I missed the fact that he discarded a Matryoshka, which would have been very useful to know, because that tells me that clearly he has a lot of Matryoshka in hand, so much so that he feels like maybe the last one isn't necessary. Obviously, scoring out, we don't have anything next to jam in because we used all our clicks to seamless advance and get that scored. So now we are just sitting back. We've got some good protection on R&D, some good protection on the remote, and we're just sitting back and waiting so that we can find things to put in the remote, ideally an agenda, but there are also 1 or 2 humanoids still in there that we may be able to use, as well as a number of upgrades, Animatic Void, Managam Skunkworks, all which can be excellent bait to lure the runner through. And our remote right now is a Bran, and then a drafter, and then a boomy. So things we need to be thinking about: the boomy is going to be pretty great if we see a botulus come down, which is very likely in a Hoshiko deck. The drafter is just suitably annoying. You have to break drafter really, because the ability to be able to reinstall like a Mercia is pretty devastating. So, and also in the current score points where we're on 5 and our opponent's on 0, it is the case that we can afford to jam. If they want to spend lots of resources ensuring they get in, they steal a single agenda. It's not the end of the game for us. They still have to steal 2 more. So we have lots of opportunity to kind of push where we want without having too much pressure on needing to succeed in actually scoring that agenda. I believe now we've put in a Managam. Again, it's great bait. We drew it off the top and put it straight in. Otherwise, we would have put that humanoid in. We might have even put the humanoid and the Managam in on the previous turn if the humanoid wasn't sniped from hand. But our opponent's now getting set up with some pretty frightening twinning situation going on, where they can easily charge that once a turn. We've got HQ and archives that are both open, so you can just run and boost, which I think is what we're going to see here, because the attacker is kind of taking up. Makes a run on HQ just to be able to boost, just check what the card is. It was still a drafter, so there was no new information gained there. We draw a card, we install it, and then we start going. I do not remember exactly what card this is, so we're all going to find out together. But we are at the point of the game where R&D is expensive enough to have to get through. You could spend your whole turn, and you could spend 1 credit off Tacker each time to be able to boost, to be able to see 3, which would be pretty threatening. But if I do find a window where I can just draw up and then put something in the remote, that remote feels pretty locked down. We're just a little tight on money to be able to afford everything right now. Our opponent runs, does that indeed, pays to get through, sees 3, and unfortunately sees nothing this time. Which also means for the next few turns, we know that there is nothing going on in there. So it just depends whether I did put an agenda in this remote or not. But seeing that there's $2 on the board, and knowing that we have drafter, boomy, and Bran, and a Mercia, we feel pretty confident that it's a pretty locked down remote. It's going to cost a lot to get through the Bran. It will cost a lot of clicks in any case to get through everything, and we also know that there's a Managam at the end. Now, the Managam doesn't work the first time because you would use the Leo trigger first. You can't make them pay Managam and then use Leo trigger to end the run. So we go for we use it to gain a single credit clicklessly, gain some credits and advance once, because this is the vulnerability audit that we feel ready to be able to score. We need 3 credits to be able to advance, and we've got 5 credits left otherwise, so we can res one of the ice, and if we really need to, we can res both ice if we think that that is an important factor to keep them out. That would mean that we'd have to spend the next turn clicking for 3 credits, but that's a very worthwhile cost, because if we can force the runner to use up all of their resources by running through all these pieces of ice, we look at the boomer on the outside, decide not to res it, we then go to the drafter inside and decide to res that. If we are able to make the runner spend a lot of resources and then pop things as we need to, then we know we should be good. Coming back to the credit total, I had 8 credits. That was 3 for drafter, 2 for Managarm to be able to res it, and then also 3 for advancing the agenda. We res the Managarm early. I think this was just kind of as a learning experience of, I'm pretty sure you can't get in, I'm just going to res it now so that we don't have to spend ages calculating all of this. Obviously in a real game, you would wait until they get to the innermost to then res it and force them to make that decision. But because we were playing at the pub and we were all here to have fun, we res it now just so it's nice and clear. And we know that if we then, with the credits they have and the number of Matryoshkas they have, if we then use the Mercia to pop, there is no way that you can run through breaking Brun with clicks and also breaking Managarm with clicks. So at this point we know that that is locked down. It's only if the runner finds a way to run R&D here and see 3 and somehow sees 3 agendas in 3 cards, of which there are 4 agendas in the entire deck and probably about 20 cards amongst them. It's possible, it's happened. I had it happen at Worlds, but it is pretty unlikely. So Jai is here with a number of people around him, helping him to work out, is there any way that he can find a way through here? Is there a way that he can get into this server? He has got the full 4 clicks because he used the Hannah. Puts down a Matryoshka. I believe that is in order to break is that to break the Bran? Maybe it's to break the Bran. And then also in hand, we find a Botulus, which is installed on the drafter in order to be able to break one of the subroutines, because you don't really care about the corp adding a card to hand at this point. Instead, changes it to actually we want it to be on Bran. I assume that's so we can save 1 click and invest in the long game, because again, as mentioned before, when the corp's on 5 points and the runner's on 0, the corporation is just caring about scoring the next thing. The runner has to consider all their options and investing in the long game. And there it is. We managed to score out. The runner feels they couldn't get in this time, and therefore we get the opportunity to finish that score and win the game. It was an incredibly swingy game. I cannot believe the high roll of the hand I started with, how it worked out, and the perfect order of agendas coming up. Could have maybe had seamlesses and vulnerability audits, but actually the sender message helped a lot for me to be able to protect R&D. So again, things just came up very, very nicely, which made it very, very easy and very, very quick for me to be able to close the game. Not like the experience I had at Worlds, where I went 4-7 and was bricked a lot of the time. So there we have it. That is a game against Jai. Jai, thank you for visiting. Please do come back to London sometime and let us know. We'll get you on stream, whatever. We'll make it happen. But it was great to play games with you. It was great to see how many people who came from Worlds wanted to just go and play more Netrunner at London, wherever they were before they were going home. They just wanted to play more games, and that was so wonderful and super hyped up me and a lot of the other London players to want to make content, play more games, and have more meetups happen. So it's going to be a very good year coming around to the next year. Thank you much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.